Okay, we're going to do section 12 or 11.2 today. I'm actually going to break it down into 3 different lectures, and I'm going to have problems for you to work on with each lecture so that it's not so much information at one time. So at 11.2, the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the quadratic formula. Some of you probably had really clever teachers in high school, and they put this to music, and they put it to probably to Pop Goes the Weasel, and I'm not going to do that. So remember, quadratic is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Okay, if we took that and we completed the square, which is a skill that you have just learned how to do, if we completed the square with this and we solve for x, this is what we're going to get. That x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over, excuse me, 2a. Okay, this is how you solve for x with a quadratic formula. So on your test, a lot of times you'll be specified, like solve by completing the square, solve by factoring, solve by using the quadratic formula. If you were told to solve it any way you wanted to and the numbers were really yucky, I would always resort to working with a quadratic formula. Okay, I forgot to get out something to clean my board with, so just be patient with me just for a second. Okay, so we're going to go through and work some problems with the quadratic formula. Please make sure you write this down. Make sure you memorize it in your notes right now. Put clouds around it, put arrows around it, do something so that you have it where you can reference it. But we're going to be using this quadratic formula over and over and over, so you have to know it. So when you take your test, remember we've talked before about doing a brain dump. So as soon as you get your test, put the formula on your test paper so you will have it. Okay, so if we had 2x squared, just a second. If we had 2x squared plus 9x plus 10, and that's our function, that's our f of x function. Let me just squish this in here. Okay, we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve it. We're going to do the opposite of b, which is negative 9, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 9 squared, 81, minus 4 times a is 2, c is 10, all over 2a, and a is 2. Okay? So this is going to be negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 4 times 2 is 8 times 10 is 80. So this is just going to be, I'll just kind of show you every step to see if that'll help. 81 minus 80, all that's over 4. So we have negative 9 plus or minus. 81 minus 80 is 1. The square root of 1 is 1 over 4. So because these are numbers, you can't leave it like this. You have to break it apart. And on your test, remember, if it's a squared number, you're going to find 2 answers. So it's going to be negative 9 minus 1 over 4 and negative 9 plus 1 over 4. So negative 1 minus 9 is negative 10 over 4. You can reduce that to negative 5 halves. It's hard to write down here. Over here we have negative 1 plus 4 is negative 8 over 4. And that answer is negative 2. So your 2 answers are negative 5 halves and negative 2. Okay, and we did this using that quadratic formula. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, 2x squared minus 6x is equal to 1. Okay, this is not in the standard form for a quadratic. Remember that 1 has to be on the left-hand side. So if we subtract 1 from both sides, you have 2x squared minus 6x minus 1 is equal to 0. Now it's in your standard form for a quadratic equation. We're going to plug everything into the quadratic formula. So the opposite of b, so the opposite of a negative 6 is a positive 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared. Negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. B squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times 1 is negative 1. All over 2 times a, and a is 2. Okay, so this is 36. Hang on. So this is going to be 36 plus 8, which is 44. All that's over 4. Okay, remember you can't leave a perfect square inside a radical. 44, I'm just going to scratch this out because I'm getting kind of low down here on the board. 44 is the same thing as 4 times 11. Okay, we can take the square root of 4 out, which is 2. So that's 6 plus or minus the square root, 2 times the square root of 11 over 4. 2 goes into all of those, so your answer is going to be 3 plus or minus the square root of 11 over 2. 3 plus or minus the square root of 11 all over 2. On your test, because you're going to have to be typing in your answers, this is what you're going to have to do since it's on the computer. It's going to be 3 minus the square root of 11 over 2, and I think they'll have braces because remember your answers are in set notation, comma, 3 plus the square root of 11 over 2. And you probably know this from Math Lab, but this is the form that the computer will take so that it will grade your test correctly. Okay, let's go through, let's work another problem. And like I said, I will give you some problems to work for homework and I will have the answer supplied for you. If you ever can't get an answer, you have 2 email addresses. Make sure you ask me, I will help you. Let's do one like this. 1/6 x squared minus 1/3 x minus 1 is equal to 0. Okay, so we see this one, it's got fractions. We don't want to do it because it has fractions, but we're big people, we have to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the fractions. Common denominator here is 6. I'm going to multiply every single term by 6. So 6 over 6 goes away, that's 1, so that's x squared. Minus 3 goes into 6 2 times, so that's 2x. Minus 1 times 6 is 6, 0 times 6 is 0. So now we have something that's easy to work with. So we're going to plug this into the quadratic formula. The opposite of b, the opposite of a negative 2 is a positive 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 4, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a, a is 1. So this is 4 times 6 is 24, 2 negatives make a positive, 24 and 4 is 28. So this is 2 plus or minus, this is the square root of 28. 28 is 4 times 7, okay, all over 2. I did that so you can see that there's a perfect square. We're going to take out the square root of 4, which is 2, so that's 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 7, all over 2. We have 3 terms, 2 goes into all of those, goes in here 1 time, so that's 1, plus goes in here 1 time, so that's 1 square root of 7, all over 1. Okay, I'm going to do one problem with fractions. So you can see that we can do this, it's not going to be so bad. So if we had 5x squared, or where the solutions are fractions, 5x squared minus 4x minus 9 is equal to 0. So this is in the standard form. We're ready just to start plugging stuff in. So it's going to be the opposite of b, which is 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 16, minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is negative 9. And I should have grabbed my calculator. I'll just bring it over here in just a second. 2 times 10, so we don't sit here and waste time with me trying to fumble through this. Excuse me. So when you plug this into your calculator, 2 negatives always make a positive. So that's 4 times 5 times 9 is going to give us 180, and then plus 16. So that's going to give us 196. So this is 4 plus or minus, and I've got my little 92-cent calculator I got at Walmart, so I'm going to have to play with this for a second. So 196 all over 2 times, oh, I think I goofed. 2 times 5, I went ahead and wrote 10, it's really a 5, sorry. 2 times 5 is 10, I kind of jumped ahead. Okay, so what is 13 times 13? Whoops, let me clear this out. 13 times 13 is 169. What is 14 times 14? Hold on. 14 times 14 is 196. Okay, so over 10. So the square root of 196 is 14, so this is 4 plus or minus 14 over 10. Okay, remember these numbers, you're going to have to work it out. So this is going to be 4 minus 14 over 10, and then 4 plus 14 over 10. So 4 minus 14 is negative 10 over 10, and so that's negative 1. Okay, I'll write it up here. It's negative 1 is one answer. We're put it in braces. The braces are automatic in the computer. You just have to put the numbers in there. And then negative, or 4 and 14 is 18 over 10. That reduces to 9/5. So your answers are negative 1 and 9/5. I'm not certain if the computer is particular about which one you put in first. If it is, I would put, I don't know, I think I put the negative 1 in first. So just because I think we always think about smaller numbers before we think about bigger numbers. So these are the first problems working with your quadratic formula. I will attach some problems to this that have the solutions. If you're not getting the same solutions I have, please contact me and I will help you work through them. Thanks. Bye-bye.